Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today I'm going to be combining the Wildflower stamps and dies with the Best Parents stamps and dies. I wanted to do some no-line coloring. It's been a while since I used my Inktense Watercolor Pencils, and so I wanted to do something with those. The Best Parents set is really, it's like got a Happy Father's Day, Happy Mother's Day, like best mom in the world, best dad in the world kind of thing. It's just a really good set to have on hand, and I'm super glad that I have it, because it's one of the ones that like I go back to obviously at least once a year to make my cards. So here I'm using the no line coloring ink from Honeybee Stamps to stamp this down. You'll notice with the two, they look like Black Eyed Susans, that they're a little bit darker, and it's probably because I didn't clean my stamps before I put them away. I know that's like a huge faux pas, but the reality is I don't often clean my stamps. I don't. I know the staining bothers some people, but if your stamps aren't staining, then they're probably not super good quality photopolymer stamps. But anywho, so getting right into the watercoloring, I'm going to show you a little bit in like regular time, and then I have to speed it up. I have to speed it up. Watercoloring takes me so long, like 5 ever. So first I'm going in, and there's a couple of little tricks that I'm going to talk about that I've learned along the way. And so first I'm going to put down a little bit of color direct to paper. I am using the Canson Monteval watercolor paper, and then a number 2 round brush. So just kind of going in, wetting the tip of the petal, and then bringing that back into where the color is. And this gives me a ton of control over how much pigment I kind of work out of what's been laid down. I know that I also do a messy watercolor look, but when it comes to the no-line images, I prefer it much more controlled. So first tip is like the paintbrush to tip, and I've switched colors. So the original color that I put down I think was sun yellow or something of the like. And then this one is mustard. So I'm just trying to add a little bit of shading to the petals that are going to be underneath. But this is a really great way to get more concentrated color and not have to worry about blending out the line, because the actual pencil never touches the paper, and you can pick up a ton of pigment this way. So you'll see me using a combination of this and then putting it down on the paper regular. This is a great way if you're looking for a really watercolor look where you kind of let the water do the work for you. This is a great way to do it with this particular medium. So yeah, these colors are, what do I have? I have I think I have the 36 set or 24 set, one or the other. And there are some colors in this that I kind of wish I had, but I found a ways to kind of work around that because I'm just not willing to spend more money. The nice thing also about this technique is that because you're using so little water, they do dry really fast. They dry super quick. And so I don't have to worry about really working on one flower and completing it, because it's almost dry like the second you put it down. Tips for that is the same as I would give for any watercoloring medium. The more water that you use, the less control that you have. So if you find yourself picking up too much water, which I did for a really, really long time, and then I was upset because I didn't like my result, I have found that you have to blot the base of the bristles, not the tip. You want moisture on the tip of the paintbrush, but you do want to take out the excess water at the base. And I'm pretty sure that's something that my friend Dawn taught me. So now I've kind of practiced it enough where I know how much water to pick up. But if you're new, and sometimes you'll still see me do it, where I just take a paper towel to the very bottom of the bristles, and it kind of absorbs all that extra water and gives me a lot more control. And then eventually what I found is I learned how much water to pick up so that I wasn't oversaturating my brush and ruining my painting. So, like I said, here in a second, we're going to speed this up because it takes me so long. There's nothing I can do about it. It just is one of those things because I have to keep continually adding color so that I'm happy with it. This is just something that I gotta do. So for the greens, in the pack that I have, we don't have a lot of great options for realistic greens. I'm going to be real with you. This leaf green is pretty much it, and it's more of a yellow green. They have a teal, they have a true green, but they're very bright, and they're not really something that I would say that you would see in nature. I'm going to show you a couple of ways that I found to work around that, just so I can have varying colors of greens, because I like a lot of color variation. I cannot be just out here with the same boring colors. I gotta have some other stuff going on. So yeah, so as far as life goes, what have we been doing this week? You guys already heard that was crazy. I have fortunately been able to catch myself back up for the most part. So there's gonna be a lot of videos coming your way. Honeybee just had a brand new release, which I'm totally in love with, and I used one of their sets. I'll have a video for that on, I think it's Tuesday, that I made my mom's Mother's Day card with. This one is also going to be a Mother's Day card. I haven't decided if it's for one of my sisters or if it's for my mother-in-law yet, but I will for sure be giving it to somebody this year for Mother's Day because I made it. And so... no, it's Monday. I'm lying. It's not Tuesday. It's Monday. Monday I will have a video. And that one shows colored pencils. So I tried to pick some colors that are different than what I normally gravitate toward. So honestly, I think everybody has kind of a preferred color palette. Blue is my boyfriend, but I also have a habit of when I'm doing watercoloring, that I go directly for pink. I have like a pink purple, a pink orange, a pink yellow, but the base color is pretty much pink. I have a lot of pink in my watercoloring. And so I intentionally tried to pick different colors to work with. I think that may have curbed my liking of the end result. Not that I don't think it's pretty, it's just not my favorite. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's got those, I think. And ultimately, I would encourage you. My problem is I get bored. I feel like I'm making the same thing over and over and over again. And then that kind of dampens my creativity. So pushing myself outside of my boundaries, whether that be with a new technique I haven't done in a while, or with a new color palette, kind of helps me feel a little bit more refreshed. But if you don't need that, there's nothing wrong with using the same color palette. Like they're your cards and, whatever makes you happy. So with both flowers, you'll see that after I've done the base watercoloring, I'm going back in with a pretty strong concentration of color and just adding in those shadows or adding in the lines that the illustrator's already drawn into the flowers, just to give them a little bit more dimension. Sometimes the color's too strong and I have to go back in with a little bit of water and kind of blend them out just a smidge. But I think adding that little detail at the end really gives them that more realistic look. And then for almost all the flower centers, I'm using the yellow and mustard combination. For the ones that look like Black-Eyed Susans, I also brought in a medium brown, I think it's called Willow, and Bark, which is a dark brown. So after I let this dry, I actually had to go pick up Peanut from school. And so I let it sit here and then came back to it after I had picked him up. I realized that it was darker than I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a brighter red. And so there's a couple of reds that are included in the pack. But I started with the chili red, and this is the poppy. So it is just a little bit brighter. It's, I guess, what I would refer to as more of a tomato red, where it's got a little bit more like orange in it, and is just generally brighter overall. You certainly do not have to spend as much time as I am spending on these flowers. You can watercolor them pretty quickly and still have a pretty good result. but I wanted it to look a certain way, and that's just me. That's my burden to carry because sometimes I just cannot leave it alone. And I'm that way with everything. So even like when we are doing furniture, which I have not been in the garage in 1,000 years. It's been that long. That's not a dramatization at all. It's 1,000 years. Um, if I see it and I don't like I can't help but try to fix it. And even Eric's like, just leave it alone, Kelly. And I'm like, I can't, but you don't understand. I cannot. Um, so back to the card real quick here. I'm using the same leaf green as my base, but I wanted to switch up the greens like I was talking about before. And so what I'm doing here is I'm going back in with kind of like a navy and doing a color glaze right over top of it. It's going to change the hue enough. Not that so they don't go together. They still will. They still have the same base color, but it's going to change it enough that it's going to add a little bit of interest. And then for these last flowers, which I believe are crocuses, I went with a purple and blue. And this time, instead of layering the colors like I've been doing, I just put them down at the same time. I wanted them to be more of a blue violet, and that wasn't something that was an option in the colored pencils that I had. So I just made it on my own. I put them both down together. And then once I was happy with the base color, then I went back in. I think I went in with the violets to add in my shadows because I thought that looked better with these particular flowers. But you could go back in with either or, just depending on the look that you're going for. So yeah, life. We're talking about life, right? What were we talking about? Does anybody remember? No. Oh, I think I was talking about the new Honeybee release, which was awesome. But, so yeah, it's been a week. Like I said, I do believe I am caught up. So that makes me happy. I have a little bit less on my plate. The last 2 days, so my husband is wonderful, and we do alternate the days that we get up and take Caitlin where she needs to go. And on the weekends when he is home, we try to do one or the other where somebody gets to sleep in. So like one on Saturday, typically I try to let him sleep in. And then on Sunday, he tries to let me sleep in because he has to go to bed earlier to get up for work anyway. So we kind of have a system so at least somebody isn't the only person getting up. Well, the last 2 days I have gotten up with Miss Caitlin, and it's been at 6:20 in the morning. Why? Why, child? Why? And I know there's going to be some of you moms out there who are going to be like, oh, my baby's always got up at 5 a.m. But why? But why? No. I can't do it. That's too early for me. I am not a morning person. I think day shift is the devil. So terrible. Back to the card. So here is the teal color that's included. It's super pretty, but it's just really bright. And so I put the teal color down first as my base, and then I'm going back in with that leaf green, and again, just doing a glaze over top of it so that it still has that teal color, but it's not as aggressively bright. Another technique you can do with these with the tip to tip is like I was telling you, where you can just kind of let the water do the work. That's what I'm going to do on these butterflies. So I saturated the whole right wing with water. And then not so much that it's bubbled up, but enough that the pigment's going to move. And then I just pulled the pigment right off with my paintbrush and I dropped it in. And then that way the water blends the two colors together. It's super pretty. And I was really happy with the way that it came out. The reason that I can do the two next to each other is because there's a body in the middle that is dry land that's keeping my colors from mixing. You'll see on this little one over here that I do the two areas that touch, but the wing that's in the back, I didn't do that one right away. I waited to do that one so that it wouldn't just blend right into my orange and be kind of like a blobby mess, because I am using more water with this for the body and the little antennas and the butterfly spots. I could have went with a black. There is a black included, but I felt like it was going to be a little bit too aggressive with the softer colors we had going on for this card. So I chose the charcoal gray, and that worked out really well for me. Again, I'm using a smaller brush, a number 2 round brush, so getting in there and doing the body and the antenna was not terribly challenging. And then that's pretty much it for the watercolor portion. Once these were done and dry, I use the dies to go in there and cut them out. I'm very, I'm very frightened. I am scared of my purple tape right now because it seems like everything I do watercolor, my purple tape rips it. So I used some tape that was like super not sticky at all. It did end up being okay this time, thank God. For the background, I couldn't just let it be white. I thought about it, and maybe like making a bouquet with the flowers, but ultimately I didn't really like the way that that was looking, and so I decided to do them in their more natural habitat, kind of like a field of flowers, and so I'm creating the background with my Distress inks. I'm just using a real simple 3-color blend. For the sky, I use Salty Ocean and Prize Ribbon, just to add a little extra darkness at the top, and then at the bottom, I'm going to use peeled paint. Normally my go-to for grass is mowed lawn. I'm not going to lie, it's a brighter green, but because I was using that leaf green on every single stem for these wildflowers, the peeled paint was just a better match. And then once that was done, I went ahead and just because, you know, I like the shimmer, I like the shine, it makes me happy. I went in and did some spattering of just some clean water. You don't want to use a ton of this because we're not working on watercolor paper now. This is 80-pound Nina Solar White cardstock. And then I also went in with just a little bit of Perfect Pearls to add in some shimmer and kind of break up that background. You know, that's an old standby for me. I thoroughly enjoy all the Perfect Pearls in my background. You know I do. So then once that was done and dry, you can see how like the light catches the shimmer, but it's not so much that it's in your face. For the sentiment, I'm not sure how I feel about this. I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure how I feel about my decision. I decided to go with a white shadow for Mothers, and I was thinking of putting it on gray, but ultimately I ended up with Craft. Just because, again, these colors are so soft that I was worried that any sort of darkness would be too much. But I kind of think I erred too far on the side of caution because to me, it doesn't look bold and bright at all, which I don't prefer. But if you prefer softer tones or more muted tones, maybe this is right up your alley. You tell me. You guys know I like hearing what you have to say. Speaking of what you have to say, I do appreciate your encouragement for the new video editing software and new voiceovers. I think I have gotten slightly more comfortable. This is now the third video that I'm editing. I'm still not good at any speaking. Like I'm still cannot enunciate. That is still a problem in my life. But as far as being able to hear me absolutely butcher my words, you guys are all saying that it's much better now. That either you heard no change or the change was only in the positive, which I appreciate. For the sentiment, I did do the die cut with the shadow for the Mothers, but I am going to just stamp the happy portion and the day. I chose a warm gray ink to go with the Craft, and I think it matched pretty well. So that part I didn't really have any issue with, and then we're going to start building the card. So she's been getting up at 6:30 in the morning. I don't like it at all. I'm not a day shift person. But what are you going to do? You know, babies got to eat. Babies get tired of sleeping. So fortunately, she's typically pretty happy in the morning. So at least when you're up at 6:30 in the morning on, in my case, mostly minimal sleep, at least she's happy about it. And she'll give you some smiles and some snuggles and some coos. So, you know, I appreciate that. She's got her first tooth. I think I shared that with you guys, that she was teething. Here for the card, I'm just gluing the flowers to each other, so that way I can flip the whole thing over as one piece, and then it'll be so much easier to glue down. Also, you could do the same trick and then put foam behind them. I chose not to use foam behind them. I chose just to glue them down flat because I already had some extra dimension going on since I used the die cuts. You could also, if you're interested in making a 1-layer card, you could for sure stamp them and mask them the same way. and to have a field of flowers that were not die cuts. That would be super pretty as well. So, yeah, so she's got her first tooth that's completely broken through. It's on the bottom right. She drools all the time. Her face is wet all the time, poor little baby. And she has moved on from eating oatmeal to trying her first baby food, which is sweet potatoes. And this is the same as her brother. I wanted her to try vegetables first. That was a tip from my mother-in-law, like don't start her on the fruits or she won't eat her vegetables. And so that is what we're doing. We've been sticking with sweet potatoes for about a week now, just to make sure that, there's nothing different, no allergies, anything like that, before we start introducing her to all kinds of things. I think the next one that we're going to go with is carrots, because that's relatively close to sweet potatoes. But she is getting so good at eating off a spoon. She drives her daddy a little bit nuts when she gets her hands in the way, because she wants to eat her hand in the middle of eating her food, so she creates a little bit of a mess, but that's all right. I don't mind. So here, because we have that like kind of bold white outline, for the most part it blends in up top, but you guys know I'm not a big fan of it at the bottom. So I just went in with the ink that was left over on my foam tool from the peeled paint. I was very careful going over the butterfly, and I just kind of hit those stems so that they would blend in a little bit more, and I did like that better. And then I added shimmer to all of the flowers. I didn't really notice any pigment moving. The Derwent Inktense pencils tend to not move after they dry. They're pretty solid. So that is it. That's the whole card. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you learned a little something, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.